The house shouldn't have been standing, not after what the locals whispered about it. When Elena Ward stepped out of the truck and looked at the rotting Virginia farmhouse, the wind felt wrong, like it was breathing against her skin. Her father brushed it off, saying old houses make strange noises, but the way the townspeople stared as they passed felt like a warning. Inside, dust danced in cold patches of air, and the wooden floorboards groaned under Elena's feet as if pushing back. That night, she found strange symbols carved beneath a loose plank in her room. Sharp, geometric shapes, pulsing faintly under the moonlight. They didn't look like anything human hands should make. As she traced one mark, it warmed under her fingertip, and the house released a low sigh, almost grateful. She backed away, heart thundering. Shadows in the hallway stretched toward her door, dragging longer than they should. The pipes rattled even though no water was running. Something old lived in those walls, something waiting. And as she drifted into uneasy sleep, she heard a voice whisper from under the floor. Another ward has returned. The cuts appeared overnight, thin red lines curling across Elena's arms like ink bleeding through parchment. They weren't random. They formed the same symbols she'd seen under her floorboard. When her mother saw them, her face drained of color, and she locked the bedroom door before speaking. She admitted the truth Elena's family had buried for generations. The Ward bloodline carried something ancient, something older than the country itself. Every Ward child was born already chosen. Elena felt cold crawl down her spine as her mother confessed that the markings meant awakening. Elena wasn't the first. She wouldn't be the last. The symbols on her skin pulsed like a heartbeat, tightening around her bones with invisible threads. Memories she didn't own flashed in her mind. Forests burning under red skies, chanting voices, a stone altar smeared with blood. They weren't dreams, they were ancestral echoes. Her mother warned her not to listen to the whispers, not to open the door when her name was called at night. But later, when darkness settled, Elena heard it anyway. A soft voice under her bed, humming like a lullaby from centuries ago. The blood remembers. The woods behind the farmhouse felt wrong the moment Elena stepped into them. The trees stood too close together, like they were guarding something. Following the symbols that appeared carved into trunks, marks matching those on her skin, she reached a rusting fence half swallowed by vines. Beyond it lay a forgotten cemetery. Every headstone carried the same last name, Ward. Dates stretched back hundreds of years, far beyond when her family supposedly arrived in America. Some stones were cracked, others half buried, but one grave was freshly dug, the soil still loose and dark as if waiting. A chill wrapped around her neck. Someone, or something, knew she would come. As she scanned the names, she noticed the final stone bore her own initials. The air pressed in suddenly, thick and suffocating. Leaves rustled even though the wind was still. Something moved behind the graves, a shadow that wasn't attached to any tree. Elena stumbled backward, nearly falling into the open grave. Her pulse roared in her ears. The forest seemed to whisper her name, dozens of voices blending into one. She ran until the cemetery disappeared behind the trees, but the feeling followed her home. Something in her bloodline was digging its way back to her. Why the next night, the farmhouse felt alive in the worst way. The walls pulsed with quiet vibrations, almost like a heartbeat echoing through the wood. Elena tried to ignore it until she saw the wallpaper ripple, a slow wave moving beneath the surface. When she stepped closer, the pattern bulged outward, forming the outline of a hand pressing from the inside. She froze as long fingers dragged across the wall, leaving faint burn marks. The attic groaned overhead, a deep animal sound that didn't belong in a house. As she backed away, the hallway stretched unnaturally long, and shadows lengthened like reaching limbs. In her room, her reflection inside the window refused to move with her. Its smile spread wider, sharper, wrong. Then it stepped forward, yet Elena remained still. The reflection's eyes darkened completely, dripping black, like ink. Whispering layered around her, dozens of voices merging from the walls, the floor, the ceiling. The house wasn't haunted. It was hungry, and it wanted her. The reflection mouthed her name silently before vanishing, leaving the glass cold and fogged. Elena realized the truth with a sinking dread. The thing inside the house didn't want to scare her. It wanted to become her. Elena sought answers from the only person who didn't flinch at the Ward name. a local historian who had spent decades studying the region's forgotten folklore. His trembling hands sifted through old maps and journals as he revealed the truth. The Ward lineage wasn't cursed by accident. They made a pact. Her first ancestors on American soil had encountered a being known as the Hollow King, a creature older than any native legend, born from the dark places beneath the earth. In exchange for prosperity and protection, every generation owed him a life. Not a sacrifice offered, one taken. The chosen ward would be claimed, body and soul, and turned into a vessel for the king's power. Elena felt sick as she realized the symbols on her skin marked her as the next in line. The historian warned that the Hollow King didn't just follow the family. He lived in the land itself, bound to the roots, the rivers, the soil, waiting for each descendant to mature so he could feed. Elena left the historian's cabin shaking, the world suddenly feeling smaller and darker. The worst part wasn't the curse. It was the way the markings on her arms glowed softly, as if welcoming their master. Elena tried to escape before nightfall, desperate to outrun whatever hunted her. But the moment she reached town, the world began twisting around her. Every radio she passed crackled to life, whispering her name in static. Phones rang in empty stores. Traffic lights froze on red, refusing to change even when intersections went still. Street lamps flickered in rhythmic pulses, forming patterns she recognized, symbols matching the ones carved into the graves. It felt like the entire town had become one living message aimed at her. People on the street turned their heads in eerie unison as she passed, their expressions blank, eyes unfocused. A bus stopped beside her even though she hadn't signaled it. Its doors opened on their own, revealing an empty interior glowing with cold white light. She backed away slowly, but the bus engine rumbled like a low growl. The Hollow King wasn't calling her through dreams anymore. He was using the world around her. Power lines hummed, street signs shook, and digital billboards flickered with one sentence: "Come home, Ward." The roads bent in her vision, leading her back toward the farmhouse no matter which direction she turned. She wasn't running from the curse. It was following her everywhere. By the time Elena returned to the farmhouse, the doors opened before she touched them. The floorboards curled and twisted, reshaping themselves into a spiraling path toward the basement. The air smelled of iron and earth, thick enough to taste. When she reached the bottom, the wooden planks split apart, revealing a hidden chamber lit by pulsing red veins inside the walls. At the center lay the original Ward ritual circle, carved into stone with symbols matching the marks on her skin. As she stepped inside, her ancestors' spirits materialized around her, pale, hollow-eyed figures wearing tattered clothing from centuries past. They weren't angry. They were resigned, trapped in the same fate she now faced. Blood began dripping from the ceiling, each drop forming a glowing sigil on the floor. The voices grew louder, chanting in a language older than English, older than memory. Elena felt her body moving involuntarily toward the circle's center, guided by invisible hands. She realized the ritual had never ended. Each generation simply continued it. The Hollow King didn't need to summon her. Her own bloodline was delivering her to him. And the chamber shook as something massive stirred beneath the ground, rising to claim her. The chamber split open, and the Hollow King rose from the depths, shapeless at first, a mass of shifting shadows forming into a towering silhouette. His voice didn't echo through the room. It echoed inside Elena's bones. He told her the same truth spoken to every ward before her. She wasn't meant to live her own life. She was meant to carry his. But Elena refused to kneel. Her mind raced through everything she'd learned. The curse wasn't tied to her soul. It was tied to her name. If the Ward bloodline ended, the ritual would break. With shaking hands, she grabbed the family records stored in the chamber, birth certificates, diaries, documents soaked in age. She set them on fire using the candles lining the ritual circle. Flames roared upward, consuming centuries of lineage. The spirits screamed as their names burned. The Hollow King recoiled, his form glitching like darkness losing structure. The chamber trembled, the ground cracking beneath him. For a moment, Elena felt free. But as the last document turned to ash, the king whispered through the smoke, "You can burn the name, but the blood stays." Her vision blurred. Her veins turned black. And when she looked up, her eyes were no longer her own.